The wolves disappear as if they are made of mist. Another trick, Jonathan says. Why did you do that? I snap, getting up. Why didn't you run away when I said? Because you are my family. I stare at Jonathan in the dim light. No, fairies are my family. I hear a giggle. From the trees and turn around. Fleet, why are you being so cruel? We can't help it, says a voice. The queen says you cannot come to the meadow, says another, and so we must play tricks. But why doesn't she want to see me? I ask. My voice is small. The fairies don't answer. Hello? Are you still there? All I hear is the hoot of owls and the chirp chirp of the nighty-night bugs. I look around, trying to figure out where we are. I think we're lost, Jonathan says. No, we're near the bramble patch where I found the thorny sticks to put in your garden. But that's even further away from the meadow than where we were before. I sit down on a log. Those fairies will never let us get there. My eyes go watery and a big sigh comes out. Jonathan sits down next to me. He reaches over to take my hand, but I snatch it away. You never wanted me to find the meadow. You want me to be a people. But I'm not a people, and I'm not your brother. What I want, he says, is for you to be happy. Somehow his being nice makes me feel even worse. I'll never be happy now. He puts his hand over mine, and this time I let him. Even though I'm wet and cold and miserable, I'm glad I'm not alone. I know, I say. Mr. Green can help. I should have thought of him before. I jump off the log. Mr. Green! Mr. Green! Who are you calling, Nicholas? Mr. Green, of course. He always comes when I need him. Who? How could somebody live in the forest and not know Mr. Green, I wonder? He's the face you see in the tree bark sometimes, and the voice you hear in the leaves. You must have met him. He gives good advice. I call and call, but Mr. Green doesn't come, even though I look for his face in all the dark branches and on all the moonlit tree trunks. I wonder where he could be. Do you think maybe Mr. Green was in your imagination? Jonathan asks. He sees I don't understand. That's when something's not real. Like a walrus? No, it's when you see and talk to things that aren't there. Mr. Green is there. Sometimes when your imagination is very good, it's hard to tell. Maybe you've been very lonely and made up Mr. Green in your head to keep you company. This is a terrible thought. Why are you taking everything away from me? I shout. My star, Mr. Green, my friends, being a fairy. I hate having a little brother. My angry words are like magic. They wake a memory. I have said that before. No one was paying attention to me. The baby was sick. The baby. I left the house when no one was looking, and there they were. Fairies. There were fairies in the forest, their eyes like blue sparks. I hate having a little brother, I told them. No little brothers where we live, a fairy said. Come with us, said another. It was Flit. I remember now. I'd never seen anyone with green skin before, and she let me touch her soft wings. I followed them. They lured me to the meadow, just as they are keeping me away tonight. I don't think I really believed it before. I'm a people. I was stolen. Nix, Jonathan says. You said that Mr. Green comes when you need him. Maybe he hasn't come because you don't need him now. Maybe he knows we can get to the meadow ourselves. But how, I say? If we get close, Fleet and Flit and the others will stop us with their tricks. We are tricky too, Jonathan tells me, and nobody knows the forest as well as you do, not even the fairies. I have an idea. I cannot see. I cannot hear. I'm wearing a blindfold made from the torn bottom of Jonathan's shirt. My ears are stuffed with ripped up leaves. Jonathan is behind me, a hand on my shoulder. He is wearing a blindfold too, and his ears are also stuffed with leaves. I walk slowly, one step in front of the other. From the smell, I know we are going past the thorny bushes with the red don't-eat-me berries. We duck under the low branch, step over the hollow log. I pat Jonathan's hand, hoping he is not afraid. He has good ideas for a people. The fairies are probably all around us, singing their songs, trying to make me see their beautiful things to lure me off the path, or terrible things to scare me. I wonder if Mr. Green is all around me too, whispering kind words, or if he is only my imagination. We are on the deer path now. It goes up and down, but I know every bump and dip. When we pass the place where the green moss grows, I feel my feet sink into the pillowy earth. When we go by the thin white lady trees, I hold out my hand and let my fingertips brush their papery bark. It takes a long time, but I am patient. We cross the river again. We go along the windy path. Finally, I feel the forest open up. I smell the bonfires. I see the light of the moon through my blindfold. We're at the fairy meadow. Jonathan and I unstuff our ears and uncover our eyes. Jonathan gasps. The fairies are here, but they are not singing. They are not dancing. The fairies are all staring at us. Don't be afraid, Jonathan whispers, putting his hand in mine. I'm not, I say, squeezing it tight. I'm not, I say, squeezing it tight. Some of the fairies are very beautiful with long shiny hair and wings like a butterfly's or a bird's. Some are scary with animal faces or clawed bat wings or pointy antlers on their heads. Most are people-sized, but a few are tiny and flit around like bumblebugs, and some at the back are tall as small trees, very thin and pale and greenish. I swallow and start toward the hill at the center of the meadow. The crowd parts as we go by. The fairies are all whispering softly to one another, all but the pale and greenish ones who have no mouths. These only follow Jonathan and me with their wide eyes. The good queen stands at the top of the hill in her cloak of midnight, looking down at us. Her hair is white as snow, but her face is young and beautiful. She holds out her arms. Darling Nix, she says, welcome home. The sound of her voice is like music. My whole body wants to run toward her. Is it true, I ask? Did you steal me? She smiles and shrugs. You're such a sweet and funny little thing. I told Fleet and Flit that I wanted you, and they got you for me. He had a family, Jonathan shouts. Around us, fairies grumble and rumble. They don't like to hear someone shouting at their queen. All this time, I was a people, I say, just an ordinary boy? She shakes her head. A special boy. A patient boy who waited all through the winter for the Midsummer's Eve to come again. You must love me very much. Oh, I do. She puts her hand to her heart. And I love you, Nix. I want to believe her more than anything, but a question jumps into my mouth. Then why did you leave me last Midsummer's Eve? Why was I alone in the forest for a whole year? The good queen's eyes go to her feet. All around her, the fairies sigh. Her face is even more beautiful when it is sad. That was all a mistake. I thought you had run away. I was so unhappy. Around her, fairies nod and repeat her words. Unhappy. So unhappy. You shouldn't believe her, Nix, Jonathan says. Why did she try to keep us away from the meadow just now? Yes, I said. Why did you try to keep us away from the meadow? Oh, says the queen. Well, the truth is, I was so unhappy that you were gone. So unhappy, repeat the fairies, that I decided to steal another little people to replace you. Don't be jealous, Nix. The queen pulls back one side of her dark cloak and steps away. There, sitting on the grass, is Rose the Wise.